All right, in this short video, what I'm going to do is show you how I prepare some of the raw files, particularly the EC file and the yield file. So in the last video, we kind of set that project up. So if we go back into our folder browser here, our file manager, and go to the folder structure, and we had those two folders set up. We had the WSU, which is going to process some golf course data, and we put in there one of the 17-hole EC data. And if we open that up, we'll see that this is the raw data that comes right from the device. I need to clean that. I need to sanitize this just to strip down just the data that I need and to filter out the good stuff. And do the same thing with the yield data. So we're going to run through those steps here real quick. And we've got sample EC data here with the WSU, and I have a sample yield data with the LDS Utah ERDA yield data. Again, it's just a CSV file, and it's important that it be a CSV file, not an Excel file. So if you have an Excel database of yield, make sure you convert that to a CSV first, and it'll look something like this, as you're aware. But we have those two files, and now we're ready to process that. So what I'm going to do here is start ArcMap, a blank map project. I don't have anything saved yet. I'm not really working in a project yet. I'm just working with some data. So I'm going to go to Catalog. I'm going to pin this down, and you should have at least one folder connection, if not two. I recommend having two. The one that points directly to the Tools folder. And inside the Precision Irrigation Toolbox, we have our first set of tools, which we'll have some more later. But the first one is Sanatized Data, and this is where I'm going to prepare my EC data or my yield data. So let's bring up the folder structure again. I shouldn't have closed that down because I want to show you how this kind of works. So we'll go to the golf course first. We'll look at the raw files, and there's that raw EC file. So if I double click this Prepare EC Data, a simple little dialog box pops up, and there's one required field and one optional field. I have to point to the EC data, so we'll go to C, Precision Irrigation Analysis folder. I'm going to Farms, WSU, Golf Course, my raw files, and there's that whole 17 EC file. Now, optionally, I can name this something else, right? Because if you start getting these long names, it's going to start causing some headaches here. So I could name this something else, Sanatized 17 EC data, whatever I want to. Or if I leave it blank, what it's going to do automatically is going to take the name whole 17 underscore EC and put another underscore sanitized to the end of it. So I don't muck with the original file here. I create a new one. So I'll leave it blank. I'll hit OK. It goes out. It goes real quick. The process is fairly quick for cleaning up this data. But you can see that most of this stuff is this text here is what comes from Esri, from ArcMap. But these lines, any messages that I bring back, I'll comment out with these 4 dots. So it said we processed 1,069 records out of 1,200 records, and so it did a lot of filtering, right? It looked for good data and filtered out all the bad data and processed that. Now, if I go back to my folder structure, you'll see I now have this. The original was 153 kilobytes. Now the clean and sanitized file is 44. And if I look at that, you'll see it just brought out my latitude, my longitude, my elevation, my subsoil, my topsoil, and got the absolute values of those, and so on and so forth. So we sanitized that information. Now let's do the same thing for the yield data. So if you remember, the yield data is sitting in here. Go back to ArcMap and close out that dialog box. And this time I'll hit the Prepare Yield Data button. Same steps, but it has to be a CSV. So I go out and find that file that I want to work with. We'll go to Precision Irrigation Analysis because that's where I copied it over to. My LDS farms, my ERDA farm, my raw files. There's that CSV. Hit Open. Again, that was sort of the name that it was given to me. I can leave it that way. It's going to put on there underscore sanitized at the end, or I could rename it now. Right? I don't have to have LDS ERDA Utah Field 3 because it's under that folder structure. So I could just say, and it's not really a field, it's a pivot. I could just say pivot 3 sanitized. Okay, so if I don't put anything in here like I did last time, it's going to put underscore sanitize on there for me automatically. But if I start typing it in here, this is exactly how it's going to come up. So we'll hit process, it goes out. A little more records in here. So out of 100,000 records, 88,000 are processed based on, the speed and the data that's coming back, the valid information. So we're doing a lot of cleaning and filterizing and sanitizing that as well. So we'll hit close, come back here. We'll see now I have that pivot 3 sanitized. Oh, it also added on there sanitized. I need to clean up that code. But anyways, so you see it went from 30 kilobytes down to 3,000, or 30,000 down to 3,000. If I open that up, we'll see again, all we got out of here was the latitude, the longitude, the dry yield bushels per acre, the distance that it traveled, and the swath for that. So we've got dry yield, we got the distance, and then we got the swath in there. So good information. So here's the bushels per acre. Here's the distance it traveled, and here's the swath. Again, filtering everything out for us. So that is how we sanitize the two pieces of information that really start this whole process on. And then the next tutorial we'll go through is we'll create feature classes out of those newly created, cleaned up data sets and start working with the data.